got to the
So
part
we're,
about, you know, a school is like a little village, and there's office
yes,
politics, and
yes, yeah, yeah.
is where we
Because you
got
were,
it.
yeah. Um, what was I saying? Do you want me to do the inspiration for the novel? Do you think you'll be able to get enough out of
Oh
that?
yeah, we can get
You
that.
sure?
Hmm.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
I thought, okay, okay.
yeah,
Yeah, so I'll talk about the school being the good inspiration because I
yeah.
think that's a, yeah. So I do think a school, because it's like a little village, so it's like any sort of group environment, like an office, where you have the office politics. But in a school, it's combined with the fierce love that the parents have for their children. So this sort of crazy love that sends everybody a little bit crazy, combined with the competitive new world of parenting that we've got. So it's, yes, it's just a perfect environment for conflict. So I don't know if I can do it again because people might get sick of it, but I loved writing. I loved writing about it.
Right. And so, you heard these great stories from your sort of writer friends, but I mean, how old are your children?
So my children are 6 and 4. So I only just became a school mum for the first time last year. So I've only had, in fact, when I started writing this book, I'd only just started at school. So
Yeah.
I genuinely didn't use stories from my own life. Apart from the two little stories that I mentioned, I'd only just begun. I could see all the potential for conflict, but so far I honestly haven't experienced that much, um, you know, except I do get very excited on the soccer field. I'm surprised at myself how aggressive I get jumping up and down on the side of the soccer field.
Right. And this does, people who know novelists are always asking novelists if they used, themselves in the novel. So it does seem like a very wise decision on your part to avoid writing
That's
about your
right.
own experience.
Well, well, that's the thing. Yes, and people assume especially when they know you, they assume that every word written is really you. Every thought that a character has had, you've had that thought. So I always remember in my first novel, I had a character who said, I'm so sick of being invited to children's parties. And I never got invited to another children's party again. At that time, I was a single, childless woman. And so I had this character making that point. And that wasn't me. I enjoyed going to children's parties.
Right. Well, you mentioned this sort of competitive world of parenting, and I wanted to ask you about that. And if you feel like nowadays, it's not just American culture, but the culture that you live in. If we give parents too much competing advice about how to be a good parent, I'm not a parent, but it does seem like parents are
Mm.
saddled with so much conflicting news and insight about how to
Mm.
be a good parent. Were you
Mm.
thinking about that as you wrote
Well,
the novel?
there's so much information in the world today and so much more access to information. So every day you can turn on the computer and there's new social media links to don't do this to your children, 10 things you can do to ruin your children's life forever. It's ridiculous. And yes, it's completely, and my mother just finds it hilarious, some of the things that we all get so obsessed about. So yes, it's a funny new world. And all of us, we laugh at it, but it's really hard to separate yourself from it. So I don't know what the answer is. We can't all turn off our computers. We want this information, and you do want to do the best for your children. So I think as long as we keep laughing at ourselves, it's okay.
Right, and you do a good job of that in the novel. Um, so one of the techniques I liked in this book was this almost like a Greek chorus, all of these different voices. And I don't know if this is the case, but it certainly felt to me like that would have been fun for you to have so many different voices. Was that a nice
Yes.
challenge for you? Or-
Excuse me. Yes, I loved. I had actually originally planned to write just from 2 or 3 characters and to have it all as if they were telling the story to either a journalist or to a police investigator. And then I can't quite remember, as you're writing, you're changing your mind about things. And then I thought, no, I'll have it from lots of different characters. And it was a lot of fun. having all those different personalities, and because you could then have, some really nasty characters and some, funny characters, and I loved it.
Yeah. Do you, I don't know if you want to answer this, but do you have one that's your favorite?
Yes, my favorite of the Greek chorus would be Samantha, because I just love those sort of people who are at the mercy of their own sense of humor. I love those people who can make themselves weak with laughter, laugh till they cry at something. I've got a good friend who does that. Yeah, Samantha.
Yeah. So, one of the things I notice is that, Australianisms, if that's the word, pop up like good day, things we don't say in America. Does being now, I mean, you've been an internationally best-selling writer before, but certainly with The Husband's Secret, it really puts you on the map, I would say, internationally. Does being an internationally best-selling author affect the way that you write?
No, I don't. Well, every now and then I do think a little bit more now. Sorry, let me think about that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to say you Americans don't like me to swear, so we swear a lot more. So we swear, we're terrible. So I do get emails. I don't know if you want to put that on, because every now and then I do think about that. I thought, oh, maybe call back. But no, don't say that. Don't put that in. No, in all honesty, I can only write one way, and I've always lived in Australia. I've always lived in Sydney, so I just write as myself. And then once it's finished, my editors do say, okay, well, some of those words won't make sense to the American audience. And we've both agreed that we always try and leave in, if it makes sense in context, we leave the word in. But if if it makes sense, then sorry, change that. Let me say that again. Where will I go from? Sorry, I got all confused then. So I tend to. We keep all the Australianisms in, but I do have an editor who goes through and says, no, if this word actually would just confuse our American readers, then we try and find another word. And often I'll know the word that you would use, and often that's okay, we'll use it too. But I always want it to make sense, even if an Australian reader in America is reading the American edition. I want them to not to think to themselves, no Australian would ever say that. But at the same time, I don't want it to be so distracting for the American readers that they're thinking that doesn't make sense. So, right. But basically, as I'm writing, I just write as myself.
And so it's in your bio that for a time you wrote advertising copy, which is such a, almost poetic in how kind of brief and to the point it has to be. And I just wondered how if at all, how did that kind of writing affect your being a novelist and your writing as a novelist?
Yes, well, I think it does, because as a copywriter, nobody ever actually wants to read your copy. So every word has to work. And also you always have the art directors. The art directors don't want any copy at all, and they're precious ads. So, less words when you're doing print advertising. So I think I was just really trained to write really punchy advertising. So I think that's been good for me. Well, I believe for writing commercial fiction, perhaps it wouldn't have been so good if I was trying to write beautiful literary fiction with lots of long sentences and lots of clauses. So maybe that's why I've ended up as a commercial fiction writer, with just writing good stories with page turners, I guess, because I was trained to write copy that people would read when they didn't want to read it.
Right. And do you think there's a day when you would sort of write as you say, like a literary fiction novel, or are you totally happy with commercial fiction?
I think I've found my voice, and this is my natural voice. So, and I never sat down and thought I'm writing commercial fiction, and now I'll write, tomorrow I might try literary fiction. I'm just writing as who I am, and apparently it's called commercial fiction, so that's fine with me.
Right. Well, and just the struggle to find a voice, to find your own voice is
Yes,
difficult
yes,
enough. So,
exactly. Yeah, yeah. And you can't fake it. You just have to write as who you are, and some people will like it and some people won't, and that's fine.
yeah. Well, tell me, what do you think it was about The Husband's Secret that readers responded to so well?
I think people seem to like that I took a darker turn than in my previous novels. I did have, I had one American male reader actually write to me and say, "What happened to you? You used to be so funny." And he said, "I hope nothing bad happened in your life." And then he said, "I hope you perk up soon." But I think readers did seem to appreciate that I still had the relationships and the strong characters and all that sort of thing, but with a little bit more suspense than in my previous novels. So that I'm trying to keep giving them that suspense because I enjoyed writing it too, but staying with the focus on relationships and that sort of thing.
But suspense and the plotting that good suspense requires is not easy, right? I mean, is it
No.
is plotting difficult for you or?
Yes, well, it's not something that I do. I don't sit down. I'm not one of those authors who plots it all out from the beginning. I just come up with a premise and then hope that it all starts to fall in place. And my plots aren't, when I read real suspense novels, real crime novels, with the really complicated plots. So I'm not doing that, which I assume they'd have to plot that out from the beginning. So for me, it's just hoping that it all falls into place. So it's thinking, I just keep thinking as I'm writing, hoping that the ending will come to me, or that the next little strand will all work out. And so far, that's worked for me.
Yeah.
But
And so
yeah,
do
there are
you,
scary times.
yeah. Um, and so do you, to help you with that, do you have readers who beyond just your editor or editors, I should say?
uh, my sister is the author Jacqueline Moriarty, who's a well-known award-winning novelist. So she's always my first reader. But I tend to like to have had the whole thing finished, and then she's always the first one I give it to. Um, and sometimes I talk things through with my husband or with my sister, but mostly I just write it till the end.
Yeah. And so last question, what is next for you?
Well, I've been joking saying that my next book's going to be set on a tropical island, and I'll need to do a lot of research, a lot of meticulous research before I can even start. But then I started thinking, why not? It could actually be set on a tropical island, and so some ideas started coming into my head about that. So I don't know. So I feel like I only just finished Big Little Lies half an hour ago. So um, I'm still having a little think about what's next.
Yeah. Well, good luck with that. I hope the tropical island works out well.
Thank you.
Um, and thanks for talking to us first thing in the morning. We appreciate it.
Um, that's my pleasure. I hope it's not too hard to edit together out all the fumbling.
Oh no, we'll get it. Don't worry. It'll be fine for us. There's been worse. Um,
That's good to hear.
yeah, because we've done some of these internationally, and they start and stop and start and stop.
Yes,
So we can
yeah.
take them and splice them together. So don't
And
worry
yeah,
about that.
okay, okay. Thank you so much. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Well, thank you for your time.
My pleasure.
Okay. Have a good day.
Okay, you too.
Okay.
See you.
Okay. Bye bye.